Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. My son is working social media, and he has been looking at my YouTube video, and he recently said to me, he said, "Hey Dad, you have been hiding behind the camera all the time. That is not very good. You need to get in front of the camera so people can know who you are, because they like to know your personality." Well, I'm camera shy, I'm kind of afraid to get in front of the camera, and said, "Oh no." But after I thought about it for a while, I said, he's right. I should get in front of the camera because I want people to actually see who I am and my passion for help people to do home cooking and promote a better food and better health diet. So here I am. The first video, I'm going to actually directly talk to you. So another thing I changed in today's video is that I have recorded my entire cooking for a particular meal from beginning to finish. Let me give you a little bit about the backstory to this particular video. Several days ago, it was my wife's birthday, and she was away with my son about 1.5 hours from where we live. So I called her and I said, I would like to take you guys out to dinner, and where would you like to go? And she said, actually I would like you to cook a dinner for us. And I said, "Really? Oh, okay." I said, "But since I'm kind of 50, and perhaps you can call it a cheap person," I said, "Great, that will save some money. But I have only about an hour to cook this meal, and I want to cook a 5-course dinner." So I said, "Can I do it?" And I looked into my refrigerator. I said, "I have all my preps already. I should be able to do it in about 30 to 40 minutes, which I did. I did it in about 34 minutes, but my recording stopped at 30 minutes, so I missed the last 4 minutes. But I'd like to show you the entire process I cook this meal, because you can see every step I do, and as well as you can see all the mistakes and the flaws that I committed, and to give you a sense of what cooking a meal like this truly is. And up till now, I have given you mainly recipes that I edited the video footage. You really cannot see actually what is going on. So I hope that you will actually get a good idea so you can replicate what I have done when you have this occasion. Okay, so let's go do it. Here are my 5-course dinner. Sorry about the plastic containers because I need to transport them. Okay, I start out with shrimp fried rice, then a beef and mixed vegetable. This is followed by an egg and portobello mushroom, then teriyaki chicken, and finally a shrimp and tofu dish. First, let me apologize that this video is going to be long, and you can skip through it when you get tired from watching me cook. I cooked the entire meal in a Bruntmore 14-inch cast iron wok. I cook all the dishes one after another without washing the wok in between. I just started to use the cast iron wok not too long ago, and in general I like it a lot. I keep hitting my spatula against the wok because I like that sound, that ringing tone. And that's one thing I really like about cast iron wok. They really make good sound when you bang it with the stainless steel spatula. I cook on a glass top electric stove, and it works without any problem at all. Now you probably notice here that I actually score the rice. What I did is that after I put the rice in the plastic container, I scored it before it get cold. So when I put it in the refrigerator, it has this mark. So when I try to take part of it, it's much easier to get it out of the container. Of course, this is the step is that I use this hamburger meat chopper to basically break up the rice. Boy, that thing is very, very useful. I really figured that out when I watching somebody actually mixing up the hamburger, and I said, boy, it works really well with rice as well. So I start using it with my rice. This part really very enjoyable to me in breaking up the egg one hand. In the beginning, I have a hard time doing it, but I find it really it's not that difficult, and it's very satisfying when you're able to manipulate the egg and break it up, without using 2 hands. And this way, actually make it easier. And I use the spatula as a way to crack the egg without cracking the egg at the side of the wok, that causing the eggs to flow all over the place. So it's fun. I enjoy doing that. So I let the eggs cook a little bit until the egg white actually turns slightly white, and then I break up the egg and mix everything together. Actually, you probably can pick it up anytime you want. As you can see here, I do not measure out my ingredients as I have shown in the prep video. I use my ingredient directly out of my plastic container. It saves a lot of time in doing it this way. The proportion of the ingredient that you put in is actually quite important. And there's kind of an optimum proportion that will go well together with a particular dish. In this dish, I did not pre-cook the shrimp in order to save time. I add the shrimp relatively early in the process so there's enough time to cook the shrimp properly. However, I do not want to add it too early and overcook them either. I love shrimp, and over the years I have developed what is the best texture for the shrimp, which is firm but not too hard. I next add the seasonings, and I always use my 4 basic seasonings: mushroom seasonings, garlic powder, onion powder, and ginger powder. I add the other seasonings such as cumin, paprika, depending on how I want the dish to taste like, and my mood. You know, one thing about stir fry is that truly you need to stir in constantly. And the stir fry motion that I always tell people to use is that you push the food around, you know, when you with the back of the spatula, and then you use the shuffle part to actually toss them as well. I then add some bay scallops for flavor, and I add them much later. I definitely do not want to overcook them, and it's very easy to overcook the bay scallops. This is the first time I use this cast iron wok. When I got it, the wok is not seasoned, and so I season it by frying an egg using the method that I have described in my other video, and it worked really well. All I did is that I fried a couple eggs in it, and it is seasoned. In comparison to the method they recommended, which is baking the cast iron wok in the oven for half an hour and so on and so forth, it's so much more difficult and less certain as well. As the dish is almost ready, I add shredded carrot to give color as well as flavor to the dish. This is followed by adding some scallions. So I zoom in the camera so you can see what's going on a little bit better. As you can see that the scallop just start to turn color, and they're still very round and plump, because once they're overcooked, they will shrink significantly, and the shrimp is just also about right. So everything seems to be cooked really just about the way I want them to be, and now the dish is almost ready. So this dish is under 6 minutes, not too bad from scratch with raw ingredients. As you can see here, the wok performed really well because almost nothing sticks to the bottom of the wok. Fried rice usually are notoriously for sticking. What we have done actually prevent this from sticking is that we fry the egg directly with the rice. As you remember, we talked about earlier in my other video of how to season a wok by frying an egg. In this case, it's a good example. We season the wok in the process as we cook this dish by frying an egg directly in it. Again, I could not emphasize more. The reason I can cook this so quickly is because I have all the ingredients prepped in advance. So as you can see, the dish is very colorful, and I'm always very interested in make sure that I put in different ingredients to make the dish look interesting. So now we are getting ready to cook the next dish, which is it's an egg dish, and I did not wash the wok, and I just directly put the oil in and stir fry the garlic. A little bit residual left behind doesn't matter because you will notice it anyway, and this also saves a lot of time in comparison to if you have to wash the wok. And furthermore, it's hard to handle this cast iron wok, so heavy and so hot. Washing it is really not much of an option. So here I put in the egg, and I'm going to let the egg to fry a little bit, and to kind of almost like doing an omelette. Okay, and then I use the spatula, gradually push the egg that I already fried in the bottom inside out, and then I'm going to mix it with some portobello mushroom, but I do not want to overcook the mushroom. So this dish is going to be really super fast. The ideal stage of this dish is that you want the egg
to be kind of almost like pillowy soft. You don't want them to be too hot. So the egg will be cooked on the outside, but the inside are still slightly soft. So carefully control the consistency of the egg is very important. So as you can see that I try not to disturb it too much. So the next step is that I'm going to put in some carrot for both color and for flavor, and then I'm also going to put in some green scallions, and then I just gently fold the egg over the ingredients, and that's about it. And I do not want to overcook it, and I did not season it this time. Sometimes I do, but in this case I'm just going to put some oyster sauce as well as some soy sauce over it to give it the flavor that I'm looking for. Again, I find the wok performed very well without anything sticking to it in any serious way. And again, like I mentioned to you earlier before, that frying an egg is one way to season the wok. This egg dish is really great because it's so quick to cook. So often I include this as part of a dinner because it's one of those things that I can save time and put time in some other dishes. So again, this shows the importance of using different ingredients to create color, to create contrast in the dish. As you can see in this dish, the egg and the green scallions, the mushroom, and then the carrots give a nice combination of color and make it very pleasing to the eye. Eating is also a feast of the eyes as well. So getting that balance to me is an important part of my cooking. I always prepare ingredients and preps that so I can get the kind of color that I'm looking for. So now I'm ready to cook the next dish. Again, I'm not going to clean the wok. I decided that the egg will not affect the flavor of the next dish which I'm going to cook, and which is a vegetable combination dish with beef. Like I said earlier, I like the cast iron wok in general, but one of the problems with the cast iron wok is so heavy and it retains heat so well, it's difficult to wash them in between. Here I want to say a couple of things about my oil dispenser. I use actually it's a hydration bottle. It's a squeeze bottle that I bought it actually at Aldi, and this bottle is very nice because it seals when you're not squeezing it. So when you squeeze it, it open up, and so it kind of keep everything without exposure to air, which is a good thing. And also by using a squeeze bottle, I have much better control if I pour, as in comparison if I pour the oil directly from the bottle. So now here again, this is my typical approach to cook vegetables, which I have a video on how to prepare vegetables, stir fry plus steaming, which you see later on. I always stir fry the carrot first because carrot, first of all, takes a longer to cook. As you can see here, I cut them in very thin slices to make them easier to cook and increase the surface area. And frying carrots in oil really is probably one of the most valuable technique that I have, is that it creates flavor molecule and it really make a difference in the dish. So the next thing I put in is some cauliflower. Again, it goes back to the fact that prepping is really helpful because by prepping I can have carrots, I have cauliflower. Now I'm going to put in a few Brussels sprouts. I don't have to put in a lot, and the end result is that I can have a very wide varieties of different vegetables in the same dish. Okay, I'm going to put in some, as you can see, I put in some cauliflower. I put in a little bit of everything, which normally if you don't have the prep in advance, this is not something that you can do easily. Again, here I'm looking for color. I have the red color of the carrot, the white color of the cauliflower, and the green color of the broccoli, and then I put in some purple cabbage. And as you can see, now this generates a beautiful color combinations. Not only it looks great, and of course it tastes great too because of the different texture introduced by these various kind of vegetables. And nutritionally, you're going to get a wide variety of vitamins and phytochemicals that offer by this different type of vegetables all combined into one dish. Like right here, you can see what I'm doing is that I've tried to stir fry all the vegetables. Again, I don't use a lot of oil, and that's one beauty about stir fry. You don't have to use a lot of oil, and to fry them. And then after I fry them enough, now you see that I just put in a lot of water, and that's why it got so steamy. Yeah, because it's very hot, and it's like a steam bath. So then I cook everything really in the same wok, so I don't have to change from frying to steaming. I basically fry the vegetable first to create flavor molecule, and then I steam it to the texture that I like. And so how long you steam it depends very much on how much you want the texture of you want it to be soft, you steam it longer, and so on. So now I'm adding my seasoning again. I use the same basic principle. I use the mushroom seasoning, garlic powder, ginger powder, and onion powder as my basic seasoning, and then I add cumin and paprika, and in here I also add a little bit of garam masala to different extent. So I'm putting some more water and keep steaming it. At this stage, it is important that you have to make sure there's some water always left in the bottom of the wok, because otherwise you're going to burn them. So I can stir them and put everything in the middle so I can steam them. I put some more water, and I keep adding water just to make sure that there's always some water at the bottom during the steaming process. As you can see that the color of the fluid at the bottom start to turn kind of a reddish brown because of the the cumin and paprika that I have added to it. So I will steam this until I feel the vegetable almost done. Then I will steam it a little bit longer to evaporate as much fluid as I possibly can. I will definitely leave some fluid there to use as a sauce, but by evaporating the fluid, then you concentrate the flavor on the vegetables, which makes the vegetable taste really, really great, and I like that very much. And using this method, I can eat a lot of vegetables, and I find them very flavorful. I don't even need to add anything to it. But in this dish, we're going to, after now we finish the stir fry, I'm going to remove it from the wok, and then the next step is I'm going to stir fry the beef, and then I'm going to mix it all together. As you can tell now, there's hardly any fluid left in the bottom of the wok. That's what you want it to be. That is to evaporate as much fluid as you possibly can to concentrate the flavor. So there are a couple of reasons that I cook the beef separately from the vegetables. And the first reason is that the beef has to be cooked just right. And if you cook them with vegetables, you most likely it's going to overcook it and the beef will taste tough. So cooking them separately is very useful in that particular case. But another reason is that by cooking them separately, now I can have a vegetable dish by itself. If I want it to be just as a vegetable and no meat, then I will have a dish ready right here. So I do like to have some beef in it most of the time, but sometimes I just like to have just vegetables. So this gives you the flexibility to create dishes with meat or without meat. So now here I add the meat directly into the wok. As you can see, it's going to cook very quickly. You can see the color change already has taken place. This is very important that you start to add, in this case I start to add the seasonings almost immediately because I do not want to overcook the meat. This is a sirloin tip that are thinly sliced, and they are, because they're thinly sliced, they cook very rapidly and usually within seconds. I want them to be a little bit rare, and because that usually have the best flavor. So lastly, I put a little bit of oyster sauce and I give it a few quick mix, and yeah, it is ready now. Stir-frying beef is pretty tricky. I always have to really pay attention to what I'm doing because it is so easy to overcook. And if you cook the beef right, it tastes amazing. But if you cook it too long, then it can become too tough and you feel terrible, because at least I do when I pay so much for beef and I end up ruining it. So I always pay a lot of attention when I cook beef, and I make sure my timing is right, and I make sure that I have everything ready when I'm cooking it. Stir frying beef is also the most likely chance to have the wok to accumulate all kinds of stuff and then make it sticky. As you can see, I try to scrape some of the wok. Oh, here's the beef that I've cooked. I just put on top of the vegetables. So here I want to show you that's why it is so nice to have a stainless steel spatula when you're working with either a cast iron wok or a carbon steel wok, because you're not going to worry about scratching it. Because a stainless steel spatula then can be used as a scraper to scrape anything that might stick to the wok. In this case, these are the residues that are coming off from the beef. When it combined with this seasoning, it forms this accumulation that stick to the bottom of the wok. And instead of washing it, I just use the spatula to do my best to scrape whatever that is stuck on it. And again, if you cook the next dish that's going to be has a stronger flavor than the beef, then I would just leave this stuff on it, because it will just increase the flavor of your next dish, which I'm going to cook is teriyaki chicken, which indeed has much stronger flavor than the beef that I just cooked. However, I am still trying to do the best and to get as much of this material off the wok as I can before I start cooking the next dish. So now I'm adding some oil and get ready to cook the teriyaki chicken. Again, you see that I don't really need to put too much oil to stir fry the chicken. I think one thing you notice that in a previous dish, I only used 4 ounces of beef. I use beef in these dishes more as a condiment rather than as a main dish, just to add flavor. So here I sauté some garlic and adding about a little bit over a pound of chicken. I usually cut the chicken into thin slices, as you can show here. I have a video that shows you how to prep chickens. When I buy chickens, I usually buy them in a large, what they call a family pack, and about maybe 5 to 6 chicken breasts in one. And then I will slice them and I pack them into sandwich bags very thinly so I can freeze them. And then I can thaw them out in about 10 to 15 minutes by putting them in a bowl of water. Now here what I show you here is that again I put in the same spice combination with garlic, ginger and onion powder together with mushrooms seasoning plus paprika and cumin. Now I do not use salt. I use very little salt in here, but this dish is going to be pretty heavy in salt because later on I'm going to add soy sauce and other sauces to make that teriyaki flavor. Now basically a teriyaki chicken is a combination of saltiness and sweetness, and the saltiness usually comes from soy sauce with oyster sauce, and the sweetness comes from hoisin sauce, which is generally sweet, plus sugar. And I do not cook the teriyaki chicken too much because it has too much salt and sugar, which I think is not the most healthy. But my son loves it. Actually, most people really like this dish because of the sweetness. Here you see that I'm adding some dark soy sauce. I use the dark soy sauce to give the color that I like. Dark soy sauce also has a smoke flavor, and you can buy dark soy sauce usually at Asian or Chinese grocery store rather than at the supermarket. Now in this step, I add some oyster sauce and then followed by adding some hoisin sauce. As you notice that I took all my sauces from the original bottle and I put them into this kind of squeeze dispenser bottle. I like it much better because it gives me better control and it's easier to add the exact amount that I would like to, and then you don't have to worry about, in this case, because a lot of times when you have sauce in the bottle, they stick in the bottle. Just like I try to get ketchup out of the traditional ketchup bottle. So with the squeeze bottle, you can have much better control. So I taste it and then I add more soy sauce because I want it to be a little bit saltier. Then I add sugar. The sugar is an important component of this dish because that sweet and salty flavor is what most people like. Like I said earlier, I don't cook this dish as often as I used to, partly because of the heavy salt and sugar that are contained in this dish. So As you can see in this step, all of a sudden after we add the sugar, we have lots of fluid that coming out from it. It's not come from the sauces. What happened is that when you add sugar, the change in the liquids around the chicken pull the water out of the chicken, and this is the time actually the chicken will shrink. So what I do is that in order to create a thicker sauce, which is actually gives better flavor, I start to put in some cornstarch. I just sprinkle some cornstarch right into it. Sometimes I mix it in with water first. Either way will work. If you sprinkle right into it, you need to mix it up really quickly. So finally, I put in some carrots as well as some green scallions to provide some visual appeal as well as flavor. As you can see, this dish is all meat, and I used to cook this dish a lot for my son and his friends. They really like this dish, and one of his friends used to say this is one of his favorite dish of all time. And I used to put in some other things too. For example, at one point I called this pecan chicken because I used to put in pecan in this dish, but most of the time I don't have pecan on hand, or I think it is okay without the pecan. But you can cook this dish and then mix it with vegetables as well. For example, the beef dish with the vegetable that I cook, you can place this chicken on top of the vegetable. So here it is. It is teriyaki chicken, and this is one of my son's favorite dishes. Actually, a lot of people like it. Most people who are not familiar with Chinese food, this is one of the dishes they will orient towards. Again, because of the saltiness plus the sweetness. Now, one problem after cooking this dish is that you're causing caramelization of the sugar that are left behind onto the wok due to the heat. In the past, if I'm using a carbon steel wok, I would take the wok out of the stove and then just rinse it in water, and that usually do a pretty good job cleaning it up. But now I have the cast iron wok, and it's really too hot to move around, so I just let it sit there for. Unfortunately, even though I turn off the heat, the wok, since it's cast iron, it holds on to the heat really well, and you can see all the caramelization that are taking place right now. So as you can see here, the stainless steel spatula actually used in this case as a scraper to scrape off all the caramelization on the surface of the wok. I'm not going to be too worried about it. I'm just trying to scrape off as much as I could, because the next dish I'm going to cook is a tofu dish, and in fact the tofu in it will remove the caramelization on the surface of the wok. And again, the tofu pick up flavor easily, and I'm not going to worry too much about the flavor left behind in the wok, because it will actually add to the tofu dish. So again, if you cook food in a particular order, you really don't have to worry about too much cleaning the wok in between. And now the only time when you really clean a wok, if you cook something spicy or cook something very strong in cumin, then you don't want the flavor to contaminate the next dish. So here we go again, and now I'm going to cook the tofu dish. As you can see here, I have yet to move the wok, and I cook everything as the wok sitting right on top of the stove. So this is the last dish I'm going to cook. It's a tofu dish. I cook it with some carrots and zucchini plus the tofu. The reason I add carrot and zucchini because I want to give it a little bit of different texture to the dish, and also it gives color as well as flavor. Again, I do the same thing. I saute the carrot first, and then followed by frying the zucchini, and then I add the tofu after that. The purpose of, again, like I mentioned before, is to generate flavor molecule through this frying process. As you notice here, I really do not add a whole lot of carrots and zucchini because I want the tofu to be the main ingredient of the dish. And I usually call it the star of the dish. By having it as the main ingredient, you will get more of that particular flavor. So it provides almost like a signature of the dish. And the other vegetables is more served as a complement to the dish. In here I use some firm tofu. I use just 1 pound of tofu, 1 cube, and I cut it up into small cubes. You can cut it up into different ways. Sometimes I cut it up into strip, but you should avoid cutting them into too small pieces, because then when you stir fry it, they have a tendency to fall apart. In this case, I try to stir fry it more carefully because I want the tofu to stay as intact as possible. And I also use firm tofu because they hold together much better than if I use soft or silken tofu. But sometimes I do use soft and silken tofu if I want to have a softer texture to the dish. Again, you can play around with it, and you will find that by choosing different texture, you might get very different flavor. So now I start to adding my tofu spice. I add a bit more cumin and paprika because I want the dish to be more strong in that direction, but I still add the mushroom seasoning, garlic powder, onion powder, and ginger powder as my basic set. As you notice that the tofu start to pick up the seasoning left behind, or the caramelization that left behind from the previous dish. And if you don't want the subsequent dish to be affected by what's left behind, then you need to wash the wok much better. But in this case, I don't mind. So what I just add is that I add some rice wine, white rice wine, and basically to give a nice wine flavor. I usually add the wine at the very end because wine evaporates very quickly, and if you add it too early, it actually removes the flavor that you intend to have in the wine. So the dish is almost ready. As you can see, the tofu pick up all the things from the wok, plus the seasoning that I add to give it this really nice color. And finally, I am adding some green onions and to both give color and flavor. Now, this is where the video is going to stop pretty soon, because now we are up to exactly 30 minutes from the beginning to where it is now. And so you can see I cook all the dishes within this period. What I did not cover in this video is that I cook some shrimp afterward, and that takes about 3 or 4 minutes to cook. And then I put the shrimp on top of the tofu, which I will show you a picture of it so you can see what happened. So I apologize, I missed showing you how I cook the shrimp. But again, this provides you a visual demonstration of every step. So here's the tofu dish with the shrimp. So here, let me give you a rundown of this 5-course meal that I cook in a 30-minute time spent. I start with a shrimp scallop fried rice dish, and then I follow by cooking an egg dish with portobello mushroom and some carrots, and then I follow by a beef dish with a vegetable medley, all different kinds of vegetables, and finally I cook a teriyaki chicken. So as you can see that I can do all this within a very short time.
So hello, we are back here again, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. Well, enjoy might not be the right word. I hope you will be inspired to cook. And as you know, my whole purpose of having this channel is to inspire people to cook and to cook from scratch at home. As you can see, that this is not that difficult. But from this video, the main thing I want to convey to you is that if you have everything prepared in advance, which it actually doesn't take a whole lot. In fact, I'm going to show you another video in the future to show you how to do the prep, and so you can see again, I'm going to take you from start to finish and to show you all the different steps. And once you start to able to have everything put together and be ready to go, it doesn't really take that much time to cook. Again, my goal of this channel is that to promote home cooking, because I truly believe that home cooking is really vital, to our health, not only physical health but emotional health, as well as for the environment as well. So I hope this inspire you and to get you to try some of the things that I have done on this video. So I'm not going to take any more of your time, and I just want to say to you is that if you want to receive notification of my latest YouTube posting, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel by pressing the subscribe button below. Okay, so again, I hope you have fun watching me do this, and I see you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.